This file was never meant to be opened. It was sealed under naval encryption for nearly 5 decades. But yesterday, at exactly 04:13 a.m. UTC, the USS Cyclops resurfaced. A submarine lost in the Pacific Ocean since 1976. Declared missing after a deep-sea signal blackout near the Challenger Deep. All 93 crew members were pronounced dead. No wreckage, no distress calls, just gone. Until now. The vessel appeared 37 nautical miles off the coast of Guam, intact, silent and drifting. When reconnaissance drones approached, one thing became immediately clear. The submarine hadn't aged, not a single sign of rust. The paint, still fresh, no algae, no corrosion, like it had just left port that same morning, and inside were the crew, alive, breathing, confused, claiming they had only been gone for 2 hours. Their internal clocks confirmed it, their watches, their logs, their voices. But the world outside had moved on, and the worst part? They didn't recognize anything. Not the equipment, not the uniforms, not even the language. It was English, but to them it sounded wrong. Their minds were still in 1976, their bodies perfectly preserved. But something behind their eyes was different. They didn't blink often, they didn't smile. And when asked where they had been, every single crew member answered, "We never left." But the logs told another story, a story too strange, too fractured, and too consistent to ignore. And one phrase repeated in the captain's final recorded log entry, written just hours ago from their perspective. "We saw something beneath the floor of the ocean. They brought the USS Cyclops into dock under full blackout protocol." Press, no public. Even most naval intelligence officers weren't told what was happening. Only those with echo-level clearance were allowed access to the crew. I was one of them. The debriefing chamber was sealed beneath Site 09 12-inch steel walls. No windows, soundproof, light dampened. One by one, we brought the sailors in. They all looked the same. Clean uniforms, calm expressions, perfect posture, like they had just left basic training. But their pupils were too large, their breathing too synchronized, and none of them blinked unless we did first. They answered every question clearly, names, ranks, mission parameters. But when we asked what happened during the missing time, that's when things got strange. Ensign Brooks said it best. We were cruising normal. Then the sonar caught something. It was deep, far deeper than we should have detected anything, beneath the crust. And then the noise came. We asked what noise. He said, "Not noise. Pressure, like being inside a thought too big for your head." Several other crew members described it the same way. A hum that wasn't sound, like a frequency only the ocean understood, like something inside the dark was listening back. Then the lights inside the sub died, all at once. Complete blackout, but they didn't feel fear, they felt stillness, a presence, a kind of pause in existence. Petty Officer Jensen described what came next. We dropped, not physically, not depth. We fell through something else. When pressed further, he drew a shape, 2 overlapping spirals, mirrored vertically. He called it the fold. We checked the sub's black box. It had recorded nothing, literally, a continuous stretch of 2 hours, 13 minutes of absolute zero input. No sound, no light, no temperature fluctuations, as if the entire vessel had been removed from physical space. But the crew's biometrics tell a different story. Their neural scans show abnormalities in the corpus callosum, the region of the brain responsible for connecting left and right hemispheres. They're too synchronized, as if their brains were trained to process as a group. When isolated, they become disoriented. Symptoms range from vertigo to seizures. But together, they're calm, almost perfectly calm. But the most disturbing discovery came from a single blood test. All 93 crew members have a non-human protein sequence embedded in their DNA. We've never seen it before. It's not a mutation. It's a signature, as if something signed them, tagged them, marked them as having passed through another layer of existence. But here's the part that chilled us all. When we showed them modern footage, of smartphones, cities, space launches. They didn't panic. They didn't ask questions. They simply whispered in unison. It unfolded. We still don't know what that means, but the last thing the captain said before returning to his cell voluntarily was, "You should not be looking for where we went. You should ask what part of your world allowed us to leave." And then it looked back. The more time we spent near the crew, the more we felt it. Not fear, not dread, displacement. Like standing in a room that used to be yours, but something about the angles is slightly off. Conversations with the sailors turned strange. They stopped referring to themselves as individuals. Instead, they'd say, "We remember that. We agreed to enter. We are stable." Even when speaking alone, their language degraded in structure but increased in clarity. Shorter phrases, cleaner logic, as if their minds had become optimized for pattern. And the worst part? The scientists working closest with them started mirroring the behavior. Dr. Mendoza, a linguist assigned to decipher the fold symbol, was the first. She stopped speaking in contractions, stopped blinking irregularly, and began arranging. Her reports in mirrored paragraphs, the same words written forward and backward. Then she began whispering the phrase, "It watches through similarity." At first we thought it was psychological contamination, until the audio files themselves began to change. Recordings of the sailors began looping without permission, the waveform inverted, as if the audio had been rewritten by the playback, and then silence, perfect silence. But when played back through a sonar monitor, a new signal emerged, not Morse, not speech, breathing. A low, consistent inhale-exhale rhythm layered over a faint subharmonic vibration. We analyzed it across 400 languages. It wasn't a message. It was a presence. And then we found the wall. In cell, Block 7, behind the bunk of Petty Officer Moore, a section of titanium paneling had begun to warp, not crack or bend, but pulse like a lung. Embedded in it was a perfect circle, 47 centimeters wide. When we scanned it, it returned the same vibration as the sonar hum. Moore didn't react. He simply looked at the circle and said, "It's not watching. It's remembering through us." We asked who it was. He answered, "You call it the deep, but that's just how your species measures what it cannot reach." And then he smiled, the first smile we'd seen from any of them. But it wasn't joy. It was like a child smiling when a parent walks into the room. Something had arrived, or perhaps had finished arriving. The containment team tried to move him. But the moment he was pulled away from the circle, the wall went black, as if the structure itself rejected the separation. That night, 5 researchers began dreaming in identical patterns, same imagery, spirals, endless corridors beneath water, a shape without, form described only as the familiarity that precedes thought. Dr. Wong, our lead neurobiologist, tried mapping the crew's brainwaves into a synthetic network to isolate the signal. It worked for 2 minutes, and then the entire array overheated in silence. No error, no alarm, just a soft burn across the edges of the code. The logs were intact, but every file now contains one final line of embedded metadata. You are not observing. You are being aligned. Whatever came back inside the Cyclops, it didn't ride the crew. It rewrote them, turned them into a mirror the world could see itself through, and now everyone who looks long enough starts to feel it, not fear, recognition. I found the file last night. It wasn't in the secure archives. It wasn't in any Foundation terminal. It was on my own drive. Dated 1975, signed by a project name I'd never seen before. Operation Nested Depth. At first I thought it was a forgery, but the encryption matched Level Echo 3, protocols that didn't even exist at that time. The file contained only one image, a sonar scan, rough, low resolution, but unmistakable. The shape, the circle, identical to the one that appeared on the wall in cell block 7, meaning we'd seen it before. But here's the part that broke me. There was an audio clip attached, corrupted, layered in distortion. I cleaned it, slowed it down, isolated the layers. At the center was my voice saying, "We were the ones who knocked first." But that's impossible. I've never been to sea. I wasn't alive in 1975. And yet, The metadata confirms the recording is authentic, which means the timeline isn't linear anymore. It's spiraling. The Cyclops didn't go missing. It was delivered intentionally. Launched as a kind of beacon, a living transmitter filled with minds that could be used, reshaped, synchronized, sent through something, not water, not space, but a layer of perception so old we forgot it wasn't part of the natural world. And something answered. It used our tools, our structure, our understanding of time to send the Cyclops back. Not to us, but to the moment we'd be ready to begin hearing. Because this was never about a submarine. It's about what's buried inside us. Something that predates speech, predates form. A kind of proto-memory that lives in silence. And now it's active. Civilian reports are surfacing globally. Divers in the Mariana Trench reporting mirrored hallucinations, seismic activity, forming perfect spirals under the Peruvian coast children in South Korea, drawing symbols that complete the one from Cell Block 7 and the sailors. They're still calm, still synchronized, but now they hum, softly, a tone no one can place, a tone that causes feedback loops in every microphone it passes. And then yesterday, the crew started speaking backwards, not reversed, inverted, every sentence layered inside itself, like a concept folding through language. We played it through a new quantum filter. The result? A message. You were never meant to contain us, only to carry us long enough and to remember. 3 days ago, every compass in the northern hemisphere spun twice. No storm, no solar flare, no explanation. But we knew. The return wasn't limited to the Cyclops. It was global. It started with water. Tides began shifting out of sync with the moon. Currents reversed for 18 seconds at 03:03 a.m. UTC, the same time we first lost the Cyclops in 1976. Then came the light, not from the sky, from the ground. Low-frequency bioluminescence, rising from oceanic trenches, coastal shores, even freshwater lakes. A pulse, repeating every 47 minutes. We synchronized it with the hum from the crew. Perfect match. It's like the planet is remembering. Then came the dreams. Not nightmares, visions. People across all age groups reported waking up with memories that weren't theirs. An engineer in Kenya described steering a vessel through the fold. A woman in Iceland sketched detailed blueprints of the Cyclops interior. She's never left her town. A child in Argentina whispered coordinates that led to an unmarked island that doesn't appear on any map. Except one, a naval chart from 1949 labeled Entry Point Chamber 0. But here's the moment I knew. We lost contact with 2 satellites orbiting the Pacific. They weren't destroyed. They aligned, side by side, and began transmitting a tone. Just one, the same frequency. 0 modulation, no deviation. A stable, perfect echo of the submarine's last known ping. And then the ocean itself changed, not visibly, gravitationally. We detected a softening beneath the crust, like something vast, something massive, was breathing from underneath, like the sea was preparing to open. And then the crew vanished, not escaped, absorbed. Security footage shows each one simply walking into the dark. No resistance, no panic. And the sound that followed. Not screams. A single massive inhale. We don't know where they went. But I have a theory. They weren't returning to the deep. They were returning to origin. To something we forgot. Something that remembers through us. The final scan from the Cyclops. Black box and the one we recovered before the crew disappeared. Decoded a final signal. One phrase. Cycle complete. You may begin again.